the teachings of Rabbi Rav Sprecher, Dean of Students at Diaspora Yeshiva on Mount Zion, Jerusalem.
Today's shiur is entitled, let's say you run out of Shabbos candles, and the stores are all closed. Can you go and ask the priest to sell you some candles from the church? Can you use that if you have no other candles? And also we're going to talk about, let's say you're on an archaeological dig and you find a statue of Avodah Zarah. Are you allowed to take it home and use it? We know Avodah Zarah is Asa Bahana. You're not allowed to have any benefit from idols or anything associated with idols. So are church candles kosher for Shabbos? What about, can you work at the Israel Museum and clean and polish the idols there when you are a worker there? So it's an amazing halacha. You don't have it on your paper, but I'll read it to you. The Levush Orach Chaim says that you're permitted, listen to this, you're permitted to buy candles from a church. Let's say you run out of candles and you want to light Hanukkah candles or Shabbos candles. So the Levush Paskins muter liknois neroid shedliku bat toeva. You're allowed to buy candles from a church. Afilo neros Hanukkah, even to light Hanukkah candles. The gam lener Shabbat. Yiddish. So the Maram says, Ki vadai botel hagoy koidim shamachroi. That the goy, when he sold you the candles, he was mevatel the avodah zarah. And we're going to talk about what that means. That a goy has the power to annul avodah zarah. He could say it's no longer avodah zarah. So if he's selling you the candles from the church, is a siman that for him it's what? Mevatel. Otherwise, why would he sell you J.C. Penney's candles? He's selling it to you. That means in his eyes it's now what, David? Annulled. And we're going to learn in this year that the goy has the power to annul avodah zarah and cancel it, and therefore it becomes permitted for what? For a Jew. Okay? Yes.
Use the same logic. Why can't we buy wine from them?
No. Why can't you buy wine from them? Yayin Nesach. So that's a very good question, Avram. I think you hit a home run. I think you asked a bomb kasha.
Because wine has got a special...
Why? Why is wine different?
Because wine is different.
Why is wine different? That's a great question. If you go through the sources here, maybe we'll get an answer to your great question, okay? So, the question is, why are church candles kosher for Shabbos and Hanukkah? And we're also going to talk about, may a museum worker dust off and clean the idols? Or if you find an idol in a dig, can you use it? Take it home, adopt an idol. Right? So let's take a look at side number 1. Source number 1. Side number 1, source number 1. Goy she'asa avodah zarah muteres at shetabod. For a goy who makes an avodah zarah, a Jew can use it, not to worship it, but a Jew can benefit. It only becomes asa when the goy what? Worships it. Lefikach yokal avato. Therefore, a goy can be mevatel on avodah zarah. We'll see what that means. He can annul it. Okay? Now, source number 2. Ketzad mevatla. How can a goy be mevatel avodah zarah and it can no longer be considered avodah zarah, and therefore a Jew can what? Benefit from it. So source number 2 on side 1. Ketzad mevatla. Rav Meir Aimer atiyaka bekunas ve'echal. If a goy can take a hammer or a hatchet and deface the getchka, so it's no longer avodah zarah, and if he does that, you can take J.C. Penney home. Moshe, it's amazing, right? See source number 2. Ketzad mevatla. Rav Meir says atiyaka bekunas. If you take a hammer and you smash it up, then what? You deface it. If a goy defaces the statue, it is no longer considered avodah zarah, and therefore what? You can use it. I'm going on source number 2. A goy, you could be mevatel avodah zarah, but a Jew cannot do that. Yisrael ain't mevatel avodah zarah. Shall goy. So a goy has the power to annul avodah zarah and make it permissible for a Jew to what? Not to worship, but to use as a bookmarker or what? As a paper clip. No, what's it called? Paper shouldn't fly away. Paperweight. So a goy can do that, but a Jew cannot be mevatel his avodah zarah. If a Jew worships avodah zarah, that is also forever. Okay? So therefore, if the goy is selling you the candles from the church, that's a siman that he, Avram, is no longer what? Considered it what? Part of his avodah zarah, and therefore you can use the candles for what? For Shabbos. But you asked a great question. What about yayin nesach? The goy is mevatel. If the goy can be mevatel a statue, why can he not be mevatel what? Yayin. Okay, that's a great question, and I don't have the answer to that. Perhaps there's another reason the rabbis made goyish wine osir, because they're afraid that if you drink their wine, you'll socialize with them and come to marry their daughters, chas v'sholom. So there, even if the goy is mevatel the wine for avodah zarah, the rabbi still said that you cannot use their wine, even though it's no longer avodah zarah. But there's another issue at work over here, because if you drink their wine, you might become to socialize with them and intermarry, God forbid. So that wouldn't help, even though the goy is mevatel the avodah zarah. Still a problem of what? Of socializing over a glass of wine. Okay. So let's take a look at source number 3. How far this goes. Source number 3, Omar Rabbah. This has practical ramifications if you find an idol in a dig. Can you take it home and use it as a paperweight? So look at source number 3. Avodah zarah mem gimel. Omar Rabbah Rachon Rav Shuban. Lady Pamach Liz Mahalech. I was once walking with this rabbi on the road. Umotasham Tabat. And I found, listen to this, I found a ring with a getchka on it. This great rabbi found an expensive gold ring, but the problem was that the gold ring had what? You have a source sheet? Yeah. Had a getchka. How do you say getchka in English? An idol engraved on it. So the rabbi wanted a ring, but you can't have hana from what? From getchkas.
You can melt it down and make another ring?
No, you can't do that.
Why? Once you melt it down,
no.
You can scratch it?
No, no. What kid he do? Umatza goy katan, and he found a little non-Jewish kid, and he said, "Do me a favor, zap it, zap, annul it, or break it." See, a Jew cannot do that because that's the halacha. I don't know. The halacha is that a Jew cannot be mevatel avodah zarah. Only what? A non-Jew has the power to mevatel avodah zarah, but a Jew cannot be mevatel avodah zarah. I don't know why. Only a goy can do that. V'amalei batla, and he found a goy gadol, an adult goy. Says, "Do me a favor, be mevatel avodah zarah. Break it off, right? V'lei batla," and he didn't. The Sotah gave him a patch. The rabbi gave the goy a patch. And then the goy didn't want another patch, so he was mevatel it. Annulled it. So now the ring is what, David? Kosher. Even though there's a picture of J.C. Penney on it. It's unbelievable. Shema mina tlas. From this story, Bill, we learn 3 things. Shema mina goy mevatel avodah zarah shalosh chaverot. That a goy can be mevatel his avodah zarah and someone else's. Vishma mina, what else do you learn? That goy mevatel b'korcha, even against his will, for goy's mevatel avodah zarah, even against his will, the annulment is what? Kosher, and the Jew can use it. Does he have to damage it, or just say zap, or hocus pocus, you're nothing now? No. Well, we don't know. We'll take a look, okay?
Zap, you're gold.
Well, right? Does he have to physically damage it, as we learned in source number 2? Because source number 2 says, Rav Meir says you have to deface it. Or is it enough just to what? Annul it by saying it's no longer avodah zarah. So let's take a look at source number 4. Might help us out. Source number 4, Mishnah avodah zarah. Let's say a goy abandons his avodah zarah. He just leaves it, hefker. B'shas shalom muteres. If a goy abandons his avodah zarah without saying anything, he just abandons it, during peacetime, that statue becomes what? Mutar. You can use it for a paperweight. Right? B'shas milchama asura. But if he abandons the getchka in wartime, it's still usher for a Jew to use. Why?
Because he didn't really let go.
So let's go source number 5. Number 5. Rashi explains Avram. B'shas shalom muteres. If a goy abandons his avodah zarah at peacetime, it's mutter for me to use. Hoyel v'yotzel adas. Because in peacetime, why did he leave it? He didn't take it. So the arayah that he abandoned it in peacetime is a arayah that he no longer considers it what? A getchka. And therefore I can what? Use it, even though it's not damaged. Sam, even though it's not damaged. In wartime, it's still also, because we say that what? He panicked, he'll come back to pick up his little getchka. Okay, so we see from here that if a goy abandons the avodah zarah, even if it's not damaged, he just mafker it, a Jew can use it, because his action shows he no longer considers it what? Avodah zarah. Okay, it's pretty amazing, this halacha, right? Now, how do you know you can't benefit from avodah zarah? Where's it written in the Torah? Look at source number 6, Avram. With me, source number 6. Siva HaKadosh Baruch Hu shelo yehen odam avodah zarah. God commanded, not only can you not benefit from avodah zarah, you can't benefit even from anything that serves an avodah zarah, like candles. You're burning candles for J.C. Penney. You can't have a noah unless the guy sells it to you, and there he demonstrates, even though the candle's not damaged, that what? It's no longer holy for him, you can use it. The Chsiv Pashas Re'eh, source number 6, Abei ta'abdon kol hamakomos, the Torah says you should destroy all of the places where the Goyim worshipped avodah zarah. The Tanya, paragraph Yishmael, Abei ta'abdin, it's not just the avodah zarah, but anything that serves the avodah zarah also must be what? Destroyed. Okay? But it's not usher until the goy what? Worshipped it. Until the goy worshipped it.
Can a Jewish person sell a goy like incense or candles?
No, that's a lifnei iver, right? Can you sell a goy, if you know that the goy is going to use the incense to burn for avodah zarah, are you allowed to sell it to him? It's lifnei iver lo titen michshol, right? Because the goy can't worship avodah zarah. The heter is if there are other stores selling it, and he can buy it somewhere else, so the poskim amater. If you're the only store in town that sells incense, Avram, and you know the guy is going to take the incense and burn it for J.C. Penney, you can't sell it to him because you're over lifnei iver l'siten michshol. How do you say that in English? Don't put a...
Don't move out before the line.
Right? Because a guy can't worship getchus either. But if there are other stores in the city, and he can buy the getchus of the incense somewhere else, then the poskim amatir, okay? But anyway, except sule elahem titzum be'esh. Their statues you shall burn in fire. And then it says, like tach like kesev izov aleim lekachta lecha. It says their statues you shall destroy in fire. You should not desire the gold and the silver on the statues. Then it says, you'll take it. I'm mixed up. First it says, don't desire it, and then it says, you can take it. Professor, we got a problem here on the table. Number 6. The Pasuk in Deuteronomy tells us, destroy their statues, do not desire the gold and the silver on the statues. Then it says, what does that mean?
And you took it.
Take it. Hoketzad. If it's a getchkid, I have to destroy it. How can I take it? So you can't understand the written Torah without what? Tradition. Hoketzad. Pasla lelahei lo tachmoid. Pasla melahei lo kachtalecha. If he chisels it, posel, the word pesel means to carve. But the word pesel means to what? To levatel. Oh, Bill knows Hebrew very good. The word pesel means statue, but the word posel means to annul. So it's a play on words. The Torah is using a word that has, Miriam, two different meanings. If you chisel it for a getchka, lo tachmod, then you have to what? Destroy it and not desire it. Posle melahai, but the same word pesel, if you annul the statue from worshiping, then the Torah says, what does the kachta mean? Take it for a paperweight or for a coffee table conversation piece. You have a statue of a getchka in your house, even if you're Haredi. So you see the word posel. It means if they make it for a statue, pesel, then it's osur, then you have to destroy it. But posle milhoi, but if the guy canceled it, it's no longer a statue in his eyes. If he abandoned it, or if he denounced it, or if he broke it, then the Torah says, you can take it. That's what it says.
Can you take the silver and gold and use it?
If the goy canceled it, then you can take the statue, not to worship, but as David Harel said, to melt it down. Only if the goy canceled it first. Okay?
I'll give him $50 to cancel it.
Look at source number 7. Number 7. The Rambam. Avodah zarah shall goy. Shabbat the goy koydim shetov l'idei Yisrael. A getchke of a goy, that the goy was mevatel before what? It came into the hands of a Jew. Source number 7. Harezi materes bana. The Rambam rules that statue is what? Permitted for use. Shenema psule lahem tesum. You have to destroy their statues. That's only if they use it for Elohus. What does Elohus mean? To worship. Avlam Batlam, but if the goy was Mavatel, Harei Mitorin, there's an echo in here, isn't there? Echo. Harei Mitorin, then what? The statue is also. So if you look at the bottom of my page, source number 7, Pashas Vayishlach, remember, Shimon and Levi destroyed the city of Shechem. It's in my handwriting, David. See the bottom of number 7? Vayoyme Yaakov el Beto. Yaakov said to his household, they come back with all the loot from Shechem. Hosiru elahei anechar, get rid of the foreign gods among your booty. And let's go to Beisel. So the question the Ramban asked, the Bnei Yaakov are Charedim. Why do they have getchkes among their booty? Don't they know the halacha that avodah zarah is what? Forbidden. They took golden statues, and Yaakov has to tell them, get rid of the golden statues, we're going up to Bethel. So the Ramban wonders, why does the Bnei Yaakov got golden statues? They know that avodah zarah is what, Moshe? Osabana. So the Ramban says, Goy mevatel avodah zarah afilu bal karcha. The halach is that you can force a goy to mevatel avodah zarah. You hold a gun to the guy's head and you say, cancel, annul this getchke, or else I'll blow your head off. So even if the guy does it bal karchai, that annulment is what? Valid. And that statue is now what? Mutter for me to use. So Ramban says, the Bnei Yaakov, they forced the Shechemites, before they killed them, they forced them, Yehuda, to what? To cancel this avodah zarah. So mitzad halacha, they could keep these little getchkes, because before the Shechemites were killed, Bnei Levi, Shimon and Levi forced them to annul it, and a goy can annul avodah zarah even against his will, and it's valid annulment, and that statue now becomes for me what? Mutar ba'anoah. So therefore, the Bnei Yaakov took it, but the Ramban says Yaakov was a machmir. I'm also a machmir. I tell my wife machmidus, machmidens. Yaakov was a machmir. How do you say that in English? Yehuda. You hear what the Ramban is saying? Even though once a goy cancels the avodah zarah even against his will, it is no longer avodah zarah, and therefore the Yaakov had a right to what? Keep it. But Yaakov was a real from me, and he did lifnim mishur sadin, says the Ramban, And therefore he said, get rid of it anyway. I don't want your hetters. Even though technically they could have what? Kept it. Okay? Technically they could have. Now how does a goy mevatel avodah zarah? Sam asked me the question. Number 8. Side 2, number 8. Ketzad mevatla. Avram, is it hocus pocus? No. Side 2, number 8. Ketzad mevatla. Kata rosh ozna. He cuts off the ear of the getchka. You go to Virgin Mary, J.C. Penney, and you cut off the ear. Not a Jew. A Jew won't help. Only Muhammad Ali or what's his name? Jose Jimenez can do that. Remember Jose Jimenez? A Jew doesn't help, Avram. Only a guy. Or Rosh he cuts off the nose. Rosh Etzba. You see, many statues in the Israel Museum are defaced. Israel Museum, you see they're missing a nose or an eye.
What?
If you go to the Israel Museum, in the Getchke section, you see a lot of statues are defaced. To make them kosher. But a Jew, the problem is, if a Jew did it, it doesn't work. So who defaced those Getchkes in the Israel Museum? If you cut off a finger even, hear what it says here. Hareza betela. Then what? It's called canceled. Okay? But a Jew cannot do that. It doesn't work by a Jew. You hear that? Only a goy can do that. So the goy would have to what? Deface it in order to make it mutter for a Jew to use as a paperweight or a conversation piece, or to sell it for the gold. Source number 8, second paragraph. You with me? Let's say a getchke was abandoned. So normally a goy would have to deface it. But let's say the goy abandons the avodah zarah. B'shas shalom muteres bana. So even though the getchke is completely intact, Yiddish David, but the goy just abandoned it. In peacetime, that getchke is muter b'hana. Even though it's completely what? Whole. Shrei B'Tela, says Rambam. Because he was, why was he mevatlet? There's no defacement. What's the bittul, David? He abandoned it. He left it in peacetime. So even though he didn't damage the getchke, the very fact that he abandoned it in peacetime is a raya. He no longer considers the getchke, and therefore what? A Jew can take it. B'shas melchama also, but if he abandoned it in wartime, it's still osir, because we say he only left it because of the war, and what? He'll come back and pick it up, so it still has a din getchke, and therefore it's osir. Avodah zarah that broke by itself. Listen to this. Let's say the statue fell down by itself and got smashed. It's still osir b'hana. Because only if a goy smashed it, or annulled it, amazing power of a non-Jew. A Jew can't do that. You create your own reality. So if the getchke fell by itself and got damaged, it's still osir until a Jew was until a goy was mevatel it. Lefikach, Avram, source number 8, second paragraph. Lefikach, hamoiti shivra avodah zarah. You find in a dig, you find an avodah zarah that is broken, it's still osir. Shema loy bitl goy, because maybe the goy was never what? Mevatel it. So even though it's damaged, only if the goy damaged it is it permitted. But if it's got damaged on its own, it's still osir, because maybe a goy never canceled it. You hear what he's saying over here? Pretty amazing. Source number 9. What? We'll talk about that. Source number 9. So he repeats, avodah zarah in peacetime that a goy left, it's mutter. In wartime, it's osir because he's coming back to get it. Okay? Look at source number 9. Number 10. Number 10. Kamash from the shari like mevatel, right? The like mevatel nachri. Avol nachri mevatel the nafshe. Source number 10. But a goy can be mevatel himself. Hilkach avodah zarah nachri yesh la bittul. Avodah zarah a goy can cancel avodah zarah, his own or someone else's, and it's no longer considered avodah zarah. The nachli mevatel avodah zarah shaloi v'shel chaveroi. And a goy can cancel his own and his friends avodah zarah v'shel Yisrael, but if it's a getchke that belongs to a Jew, ein loy bittul klau. Loy yedei goy lo Yisrael. If the getchke belonged to a Jew, then that getchke can never be what? Annulled. Lo yedei goy, v'lo yedei Yisrael. Not through a goy. Only a goyish avodah zarah can be annulled through a goy. But a getchke that belonged to a Jew is never mevutal, not through the hands of a goy and not through the hands of a yid. You hear what he's saying over here? Question is why? Well, so let's go to Shulchan Aruch, source number 11. Shulchan Aruch. We'll see how this fits in today. Source 11, Shulchan Aruch. Avodas kachavim shel goy, mitla goy muteres. A statue that belonged to a goy can be mevatel. Source number 11, Avram. Aval Yisrael any yochel mevatel. But a Jew can never be mevatel a goyish getchke, or certainly not his own.
Excuse me,
Yes?
what is this levatel?
Levatel means to annul, to make, to cancel it. Now it's just a piece of art. Annul, cancel, to cancel, to annul.
Like hummus.
It's now like chametz. Very good, we'll talk about that. It's like chametz. Right? It's no longer a piece of bread now. Now it's what? Dirt. What are you doing in batel chametz? You say it's a dirt bag now. Right? So a goy can do that to avoid zarah, but Ava Yisrael, any yochel levatel, source 11, Ava Yisrael, a Jew cannot be mevatel a goyish getchke, and kolshke can't be mevatel a Jewish getchke. So a Jew cannot be mevatel a goyish avodah zarah, and certainly a Jew cannot be mevatel what? A Jewish getchke. A Jewish getchke that belonged to a Jew. Like the Egel. The Jews made getchkes, unfortunately, right? If the getchke was made by a Jew or owned by a Jew, that can never be canceled. That's always avodah zarah. So a Jew cannot be mevatel a goyish avodah zarah, and certainly can't be mevatel an avodah zarah that belongs to a Jew.
You can't destroy it?
What? Unless he destroys it. But he can't annul it and then use it. He has to destroy it, right? Now, what about the Israel Museum?
I was just going to say.
What about there's a lot of statues there. Can you go there and admire them, Avram? Or you work there, can you dust off the getchke? Or when you want to clean the floor, you're bowing down in front of the many statues in the Israel Museum. And you're a worker there and you're bowing, you're cleaning the floor. Can you bow down in front of the getchke? So the Chazon Ish is incredible. Source number 12. Look what he says over here. He doesn't mention Israel Museum, but what he says could apply to Israel Museum. Look at source number 12. Akum shenicha avodah shasha materis, right? If a goy abandons his statue in avodah zarah in peacetime, it's mutar. B'shas melchama aser. Nire. So Sam is addressing your question. Does he have to deface it, or it's enough if he just abandons it? The Chazon Ish addresses that question. Nira, says the Chazon Ish, in source number 12, the Ein Zeh didn't bittul the ketar rosh ozna. This is not the same type of bittul by defacing it. Abandoning and defacing it is two separate types of what? Bittul. You hear what he's saying over here? There are two types of bittul. Physical defacing it, or abandoning it even without damaging it. So Chazon Ish says, Elotama the cholsha of the self nisbatal mida avodah mutar. Any avodah zarah which is no longer worshipped by people, the people gave up worshiping it, or the people are dead. Even though the statue is intact, says the Chazon Ish mutar. That statue is now what? Permitted.
Because the people are worship.
Right, even if it's not damaged. Damage is another story. A goy can damage it, but if he doesn't damage it, he abandons it, or no one no longer worships that statue anymore, that statue, Avram, even though it's complete, is mutar, says the Chazon Ish. You hear what he's saying over here? That's pretty amazing, right? Yeah. So he's saying over here. So look at the end of source 12. If the goy abandoned it willingly, muchach. This shows that he no longer considers it a getchka because he abandoned it, and he no longer fears it. Stop there. So you can be a mavatel it by abandoning it during peacetime, and even though it's complete, intact, it's mutter for a Jew to use, not to worship, to use, to melt it down. What about the Israel Museum? Now, he doesn't mention the Israel Museum, but look at the end of the psak, David, on source 12. Va'akum shel akum, an avodah zara that belongs to a goy, shidishara b'lo yovdun. This poor getchke nebech, no one is left to worship it. The worshippers are long gone. Muteres. So according to Chazoin Ish, those idols from 3,000 years ago that are found in the Israel Museum, David, are no longer idols because the people that worship them are what? Gone with the wind. The Canaanite, Phoenician statues, they're gone with the wind. So even though they're intact, you can benefit from them. You can work there, dust it off, or even mop up the floor and bend down in front of it. Amazing psak from Chazoin Ish, even though he doesn't mention the museum, but he says, Akum shel akum, a getchke that belongs to a goy, not a yid. A yid is never canceled. But if it belongs to a goy that is left without, poor getchke, there's no one around to what? To worship it, muteres. But maybe this pesel in the Israel Museum maybe belonged to a yid, Sam. Oh, why don't you ask that question? If it belonged to a yid can never what? Nullify. So how do you know that this getchke, maybe it belonged to a yid, not to a Phoenician or a Canaanite? So the answer is batel b'roiv. Roiv of the getchkes, professor, belonged to what? Goyim, Canaanite and Phoenicians. So therefore, it's batel b'roiv. So we can assume that this getchke in the Israel Museum or found in a dig belonged to what? A goy. And since those goyim are not around anymore, they're extinct, so the getchke becomes mutter. Maybe it belonged to a yid, but Sam, we have a policy, we go basar roiv. So if the majority was goyish owned, so therefore, how do you say batel b'roiv? It becomes nullified. We go after the majority. The majority were not yidden. Only a minority of Yidden worship getchkes. One too many, right? So, how do we vatla avodah zarah? So for Tzip Pesach Frank, Chief Rabbi of Jerusalem, see source number 13. How can a goy be mevatel avodah zarah? Source number 13. So he says, Achwe iyun b'divrei alev aryeh shitale de bitla avodah zarah tzrich lasa b'yadayim dafka. So this one posuk said that the mivatla avodah zarah, you have to, the goy physically has to what? Deface it and damage it. Yesh l'tema. So he said, I don't understand this Rav's psak. This Rav paskin that in order to a goy to cancel avodah zarah, he physically has to damage it. I don't understand because we learned that what? If a goy abandons an avodah zarah in peacetime, even though he didn't damage it physically, it still remains what? It's called annulled. So what is this other rabbi saying that the goy has to damage it physically? We learned that if it's abandoned and no one worships it, even though it's intact, it's mutal. So therefore, so he doesn't agree with Tzip Pesach Frank says la halacha, the end of source number 13. Nicole Zois, this is show the bittul ain't trichen ma'ase bittul. For a goy to cancel avodah zarah, you don't have to do any physical act. El umdal machshavto, like he said, like Arya said, like bittul chometz. You say abracadabra, now you're a dirtbag, right? So even though this is the halacha, Yudah. So if the goy were to what? by his mouth, or he's just not around anymore, and he abandoned it, it becomes bottle. It is no longer considered what? Avodah Zarah, and it becomes mutter bahana. Like bittul chametz. But again, this can only be done by a goy. Only a goy can do that, right? Now listen to this. It gets even more strange, Professor. Okay, we learned a big thing here. You can adopt an idol, you go on a dig, you find idols. Take it home and sell it. Normally you can't have a no from Avodah Zarah. Burn, baby, burn. But again, if there's no longer anybody alive that worships this statue, it is no longer Shiragetchka. See, Buddha is different because people are still around that worship Buddha. But the fertility god of Phoenicia, there's no one around that worships the fertility god of Phoenicia. No Phoenicians no more. Where are they, Moshe? On the 60 feet of sand. So that little statue you can take home and use for a paperweight. It's amazing. Even the Haredi. Gets even more weird. Avodah Zarah, page 47. There's a tractate called Avodah Zarah. One of the 63 tractates of the Oral Torah is called Avodah Zarah, Avram. So, a goy can be mevatlet motab hana. Now the Gemara goes further. Let's say the goy was mevatel the statue. So we learned that if you buy candles from a church, you can use it. Because the very fact that the goy sold it to you is proof pudding, what, David, that it's no longer holy for him. The very fact that he sold it is ipso facto proves he's mevatel it, and you can use the candles for Shabbos and Hanukkah. But the Gemara in Avodah Zarah 47 is a strange question. This statue that the goy was mevatel, or let's say they used a shofar in a getchka service. The goy is mevatel. Can I use that shofar, David, for Rosh Hashanah? The kiyah, they blew the shofar in front of a statue. So it's also bana. But the goy was mevatel this shofar. Can I use that shofar in shul for Rosh Hashanah? Yiddish? Now look, I don't know if you have it on your sheets, but I'll read it to you. Avodah Zarah 47. Can you use it for what? For a mitzvah. Arba minim. The Gemara says, Arba minim is shofar. The goy used the lulav and the esrog for a service for a getchka. Now he's mevatel. Can I use that lulav and esrog for what? For sukkahs. You hear the question? The Gemara has a suffix. How do you say suffix? The Gemara is not sure. But Tosfos says that's only katchila. B'di'eved. What does b'di'eved mean? After the fact, you can fulfill the mitzvah with a chayfet shel avodah zarah. And that's the halacha. Wow. This shofar I'm blowing on Rosh Hashanah came from a church, and it's kosher. Or this lulav and esrog was used by the goyim in the pagan worship, but the very fact that they sold it to me is proof that what? They abandoned it. Otherwise, why would they sell their deity? So I can use that shofar, and I can use that lulav and esrog. The Ramah Paschals and Shulchan Aruch, you can use it. That's pretty amazing. The awesome power how a person creates his own reality, positive or negative. The question is, why can a Jew not be annulled? Why can a Jew not do it? A Jew cannot annul the getchka. It's a getchka forever. Why?
He has no power over getchka. A Jew has no relationship.
You know what Yehuda said? Yehuda said very good. Because a Jew knows it's shtuyot. The whole thing is from the get-go. A goy, for him, a Jew barosh, he thinks it's something, so he can annul it. But a Jew, from the get-go, it's nothing. Right? So it's not...
Like a Jew could visit church.
What? No, you're not allowed to go into a church. You're not allowed to go into a church. You're right. Ira said very good. The shul that I davened in Williamsburg, we had a beautiful, gigantic shul. That shul used to be a church. And in Clymer Street in Williamsburg, Lillian. And in my Shiva Torah Das on South 3rd Street. Moshe, you remember before your time, maybe. Before the fire. You remember the fire before 1962? We went up, they told us not to go upstairs. We went upstairs in the attic. It was full of getchkes. They told us, Rabbi, don't go up there. The whole attic was full of, we were freaked out, we were full of getchkes. J.C. Penney, J.C. Mary, the whole family, the whole mishpucha. So why was it okay? Because they abandoned it. They sold it to us. So therefore, it's nothing. I could have taken J.C. Penney home. My father wouldn't like it so much, but I didn't know then. Take me home. Please adopt an old getchke as a paperweight, Miriam.
Given your shirt, why didn't they just throw it out?
What?
Why didn't they?
There was a fire. They left it because they didn't have to. They knew the halacha. Right? You don't have to. It's annulled. There was a fire later, and then it got burned up anyway. There was a fire. It got burned. And only the first floor, only the attic got burned up. But Kawinky Dinky, David, I'm not making this up. You can Google it. I remember I was 12 years old at the time. The fire only destroyed the getchkes. But Tzad Halacha didn't have to, it was kosher. Once it's abandoned, it is no longer considered a avodah zarah, and there's no problem leaving it up there. Okay. So, we learned that ancient idols are kosher. If you find an idol in a dig, you can keep it. But the problems with the modern statues, like Buddha, what else is there? Buddha and the other, that still has worshippers, so that is still considered what? That's still considered avodah zarah. But I have another question. Years back, there were ladies were buying shaitels. Ladies were buying shaitels from the hair of the Hindu worshippers. Professor, you remember that?
Yeah.
They were buying shaitels from the hair of the Hindu worshippers. And the rabbis ruled that the shaitels are osabano. They made a big bonfire in Mei Shorim and burn, baby, burn. But I don't understand why they do that. We just learned, Moshe, that if the guy sells it, it's no longer avodah zarah. Why do they have to burn the shaitels? Hear my question? So you have to say it's a chumrah, right?
And they used to have some polling places in churches in New York City.
So that's a whole, Yaakov, there's a whole, the post can deal with that. Let's say the only polling place is in a church. Are you allowed to go in just to vote? So there's a big problem. Marasayan, how do people know that you're only going to vote? Maybe you're going to what? Visit J.C. Penney. There's a big machlokas there. If it's a separate entrance, it says polling. So b'di'evet and the poskim wanamate if it says polling, right? Otherwise, might be marasayin. Now they're going to a church. But what you're saying?
You have to go to a church to save a life.
Well, you can desecrate the whole Torah to save a life, except three things you can't do. Right? If your life is in danger, you're supposed to break the whole Torah, because the greatest mitzvah is what? Staying alive, staying alive. But three things you can't do to save a life. Worship idols. You're going to a church, you're not worshiping idols. You can go in to save somebody. Worshiping idols you can't do to save a life. Murder and adultery, or sexual immorality. For those three, you have to give up your life, because life wouldn't be worth living if you committed one of the three cardinal sins. But the rest of the Torah, the halacha is that you have to transgress in order to what? To stay alive, right? So if you have to save someone in the church, of course you have to what? Go in. If you can't worship the idol, even if they force you to kill you, you have to bite the bullet. But just to go in to save somebody, you have to do it. The Talmud in Saita mentions a chosid shaita. You know what a chosid shaita means? How do you say it in English? A chosid shaita. A pious fool. A pious fool. What's an example? He sees a woman drowning in a river, and she's as naked as a jaybird, and he knows how to swim, and he said, I'm not going to save her. She's not sneeze. Because she's a chussid. He's a chussid shaita. And he lets her drown. He has blood on his hands. You're not allowed to look at a naked woman, and you have to schlep her out of the water. But the kuach nefesh is doicha, right? They're saving a life.
Same thing with a doctor.
Right? Same thing with a doctor, right? Right? So there's a problem with yichud with a doctor, right? Can a doctor see a woman patient alone? So even if he leaves the door open, or he has a nurse with him in the room, right? That's what religious doctors do, Moshe. Either they call a nurse into the room, or they leave the door ajar a little bit, because there is a problem of yichud. But if a lady is drowning, even though she's naked, and you know how to swim, no matter how big a chussid you are, the halach is that you have to what? Save her. Right? You have to save her. With your eyes closed.
Well, if you can't find her with your eyes
What?
closed,
What do you do, right, Moshe? Huh? Well, you have to save her, right? The greatest mitzvah is what? V'chai bohem. Saving a life, v'chai bohem. It's a famous case of I heard this from Yosef Ber Soloveitchik about his grandfather B'chaim. There was a cholera epidemic in Brisk. And the doctor told Chaim Brisker that, listen, that if you allow your congregation to fast this Yom Kippur, their resistance will be low, and there's a chance they might get cholera, which in 1902 was deadly. He didn't say 100% they'll get cholera if they fast. If they fast, the resistance will be low, and they might get cholera, which is deadly. So Chaim heard that. Yom Kippur morning, what did he do? He got up, he made Kiddush. Rabbi Yoshe tells about his Seder. He made Kiddush because he knew if he wouldn't do it for Hesia, the frum guys wouldn't what? Wouldn't do it. He made Kiddush and he ate. And they said, Rebbe, what's this, the Rebbe? What's this, the Amekel? Amekel, how do you say Amekel on Yom Kippur? What are you being so lenient, Yom Kippur? Right? Not everybody will get cholera. And even if you get cholera, maybe you won't die from it. He said, I'm not a mekel, I'm a machmir. I'm a machmir. Saving a life is much more important than Yom Kippur. Chaim Soloveitchik. Because by saving a life, even suffik bekuach nefesh dochakol tarakula. Normally you go b'sarayv. But when it comes to bekuach nefesh avam, even if the minority might get sick and die, so not just bekuach nefesh is doicha kol tarakula, but suffik bekuach nefesh. How do you say that? Even in a doubt, maybe if they fast, maybe they won't get cholera. And if they get cholera, maybe they won't die. Maybe. When it comes to a life, all the maybes go away. So he told the people, don't call me a mekel, call me a machmir. Because saving a life is much more important. Even doubtful pekuach nefesh. How do you say doubtful suffix pekuach nefesh? How do you say it in English? Suffix sakana. Possibility. It trumps Yom Kippur. Trumps Yom Kippur. Chaim Soloveitchik and his grandfather, Rabbi Yoshe Ber tells us about his Eider of Chaim Soloveitchik. Isn't that amazing?
What did you say? Trumps?
I said Yom Kippur trumps.
Oh, Trumps.
Trumps Yom. I said
Supersedes.
life supersedes. Saving a life, even doubtful saving a life, supersedes Yom Kippur. Trumps Yom Kippur. It trumps all the mitzvahs except what? 3.
Even Tsar, not even
What?
Tsar. So if a person is in pain, you are allowed to go on Shabbos.
It depends if it could lead to critical. It depends, right? Not every tsar. There has to be a tsar that can lead to softe pekuach nefesh. And then you're mechal Shabbos. Not any pain. A pain that could become critical. And then you are a friend of mine worked for Hatzalah. This is going back to Brooklyn. Remember the days? He worked for Hatzalah and he got a call Shabbos morning that an old person was on the floor Shabbos morning. Yiddish David. So he got into his ambulance and he drove to the shul. You have to save a life. When he got there, the old man was fine. He was sitting up. They gave him smelling salts. He was sitting up and what? And smiling. So my friend felt very bad. He was Mechal Shabbos for nothing. Right? He went to Rav Moshe Feinstein. And he said, he wants a tikkun. He says, you need a tikkun? If you got there, the guy would be dead. Would you feel better? Thank God the old man was alive.
Absolutely.
What are you feeling bad about? If you got there, he would be dead. Would you feel better about yourself? In God's eyes, you saved his life, Rav Moshe said. You don't need no tikkun. David, machshava tova, shbakum salamaisa. In God's eyes, my friend saved that old man's life. Because machshava tova. And nothing to feel bad about.
For more of Rabbi Sprecher's teachings, visit rabbisprecher.com.